Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Cyrus and this is Tuntum Network. While you watch this video, ladies and gentlemen, be kind to subscribe and share our link to support this channel. Today's video is about what our heads of states are up to when it comes to raising funds in Africa. And I'm going to take you through the list of African countries and the monies they've taken so far as loans from January to June of 2025. So buckle up and let's dive into it, because there is something that you have to hear from this. Let's go. Let me be honest here. Loans are not a bad thing. Getting a loan is like seeking the help you need when all avenues have failed. But that in itself cannot be the main solution to your problems. That's why I may appear so harsh on African leaders who have made loans their bread and butter. What is your business with paper money when you have gold, ladies and gentlemen, in the first place? But that's a topic for another day. But I am going to give you the list of African countries that have gone for loans in this year and how much they've taken and what the money is meant for. Ladies and gentlemen, before I do that, I want to quickly share with you the last time the developed countries of the world went for a loan, whether from the IMF or from the World Bank. Check this list out, ladies and gentlemen. Iceland in 2008 went for a loan when they had a banking collapse. Spain also took loans in 2012. Portugal did it in 2011. Ireland and Greece both in 2010. Since that time, they don't go to the IMF nor the World Bank for loans. The last time the United Kingdom took a loan from the IMF was in 1976, ladies and gentlemen. The countries that actually set up these types of financial systems don't go there for loans. The rest of Europe never goes to the IMF or the World Bank for loans, but we do. And the question is this: why don't they do it even though the interest rates given them are way lower than the ones given to African nations? Ladies and gentlemen, it's because they understand one thing. They understand who controls these financial establishments and their agenda for countries that take their money. These are hardcore capitalists and socialists whose agenda is to commit you into a perpetual cycle of taking loans from them in exchange for what they value in your country. They have the money to give in exchange for authority and control over resources anywhere in the world. They have the reports and research works on what and where to find what. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no more a secret. They can easily provide you grants to be friends with you and eventually trap you into their loan system. So when you look at the Asian countries, ladies and gentlemen, they hardly seek loans from such financial institutions except for those that are extremely poor. Ladies and gentlemen, why has Africa taken on the attitude of seeking loans in the least of its problems? Is this the best route to take as a continent? With the least of our challenges, we resort to some sort of loans. Is this going to help us in general in the long term? Let me know what you think in the comments. And now, this is the list of African countries who have gone for loans in the last 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa just received $1.5 billion loan from World Bank for infrastructure modernization and power transmission. Do you understand how shameful this is? A country like South Africa should never be in this position, struggling over such a small amount of money. $1.5 billion should be chicken change for South Africa if the country had been managed properly. But this is where they are, and they need it to fix their power crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanzania just completed a staff level agreement with the IMF, unlocking $441 million in loans, which is meant for sustaining Tanzania's economic growth. I call this budget support fund. It is now common with many African countries. We always need a supplementary fund to support our budget. Chad has also entered into negotiations for $630 million IMF extended credit facility over 4 years to support its Chad Connection 2030 plan. And for those who didn't know, Chad has adopted a national development plan. They want to raise 30 billion US dollars for national development by the year 2030. And so this will contribute to it. This is what I describe as making plans based on another man's money. We usually come up with all these beautiful, groundbreaking developmental ideas, but not based on a source of funding we control. We do this looking at funds from abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, how is this sustainable? The list goes on and on with Kenya, Nigeria, Malawi, and then we have 13 other African countries whose loans come from African Development Bank. This should have been the ideal situation where we take loans from indigenous African financial establishment, but there is a problem. The African Development Bank isn't totally domestic. The African Development Bank is owned by two different groups, ladies and gentlemen. The first group is 54 African member countries that own 64% in shares and voting power, and the rest is owned by a group called the non-regional members. They are the G7. Ladies and gentlemen, USA, Japan, Canada, UK, Germany, France, Italy, and other countries like China, India, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Australia. They hold approximately 36% of shares and of voting power. So taking money from the African Development Bank is indirectly taking money from the West. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing totally owned by Africans anymore, from AU to the African Development Bank. And these are the two key institutions that oversees our sovereignty and our financial system. This cannot be, ladies and gentlemen. And on top of all of that, the loans we contract are not even used for the right purposes. When you contract a loan on behalf of your country and use the money to pay salaries of civil servants, you have literally caused financial loss to the state, even though it is for a good cause. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to keep the country afloat and away from tensions and all of that. I get it, but that is not a sustainable way to do it. It is a crime because the lender is expecting the loan with interest in estimated times, and you, the one who took it, on the other hand, couldn't use the money in an enterprise that could have generated revenue. It's like borrowing money to feed your family. That is a wasted opportunity, and I'm being very frank with you. No matter how you explain it, it is a wasted opportunity. This mentality is why many of us Africans are poor. You need to pay civil servants in your country. I get it. And so run the country like a business where each aspect of your economy contributes income to the state. Run state enterprises in every aspect of the economy, from farms, mining, construction, manufacturing, and processing. Don't wait for taxes only and use it as an excuse to go borrow. Ladies and gentlemen, the police department, for instance, must generate revenue. This is easily done with installing traffic cameras at the lights, so that fines from motorists who break the regulations of the road can be collected for the state. Similar things apply to every aspect of our government structure to generate income for the state. This is how you overcome the idea of loans. Whenever you make a decision to take someone else's money, you better make sure it's going into a productive enterprise that has the potential to repay the loan, or else don't even take it. This has been the reason why many families have lost family lands and valuables. Don't take a loan and get married. It's a huge mistake, no matter the pressure from the woman. You will regret it, I promise you. We as Africans, black Africans, have lost our priorities at every level. If we only managed our resources properly and observed diligent financial practices, we wouldn't need to be looking for help from outside. Corruption is killing us, ladies and gentlemen. Our countries are so corrupt. No civil servant or government appointee lives off on their paychecks only, ladies and gentlemen. Even politicians who earn a few thousands of dollars as salaries end up living on hundreds of thousands of dollars every month. People's salaries do not match their properties and all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our problem. We've come to a place as a continent where without corruption, the entire system will shut down. If this doesn't change, as a matter of fact, the loans will come in and go wasted as usual, and will always continue to suffer. we need patriotic and smart people to come forward and run for political positions. If you have the drive, ladies and gentlemen, don't be scared and don't belittle yourself. Start from today to carve a reputation for yourself and give it time. You will be the next great person to be talked about in Africa, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I'll come your way again with another one. Until then, keep working hard. God bless Africa. It is bye-bye for now.